The mind of man cannot even begin to embrace or even understand the evil that's coming upon us. So that's why, you know, as someone redeemed by Jesus Christ, who is been led down this path by the Lord, been called to warn people. A watchman says, a watchman sees this stuff coming. God never said you can only look to the east or the west, you know, but you need to look down, you need to look up. Our redemption comes from up. It is my contention that every genetic lab in the world is working mostly knowingly, maybe some unknowingly, to bring about the DNA. Let me ask you a question. This is a rhetorical question, everybody watching this DVD. Where would the evil spirits have gone out of the most evil and malevolent people in history? Well, the Bible teaches they go walk in dark places until they find somebody else that they can inhabit. Because of the nature of some of these evil entities, the basis of genetic engineering is to allow a new host to come into a new, an old spirit to come into a new host. A demon is a disembodied spirit of a giant. It is a walking abortion. So this is why everything is beginning to spiral in the Coriolis effect down into the center of the earth. And when the center of the earth begins to vomit out, even the Bible says, hell hath enlarged its boundaries. So in the world of quantum physics, how does a force multiply or expand its boundaries? And in the world of hell, the only thing that the only way to contain a superheated plasma is in a magnetic field. So if you've got this amazing dynamic going on, and that which is being held, hell, the fires of hell, being held in a magnetic field, a superheated plasma, and that's expanding. I got news for you guys. That just melted my mind right now on camera. It is so out of the realm to be able to put it all into context. So now we're at the time where everybody is out searching, and it's like a time lock. I've said this. The book of Daniel says, "Seal it up, Daniel," the angel that gives Daniel the understanding of the end time, "for the vision is yet for an appointed time, and knowledge will run to and fro." And we're in that time period where God is raising up people, men and women, to be able to understand the mysteries, to prepare his people for what's coming against them. And this is a full court press. From a non-sports guy, that's a sports term. It means everything is in play now. And that's where I see we're at this point in history.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Job 1:7.
The world consists of vast cultures with stories that constantly connect their gods with the inner earth. And not just their gods, but reptilian races of hybrid entities. We're talking superhumans, strange animal creatures, or what the Book of Giants refers to as monsters.
When you're dealing with the areas around the world where so much myth, legend, oral tradition, and belief, contemporary belief, there's always almost an embracing of the underworld.
The earth is actually dynamic. By that, what I mean is that, we all go to work every day, we get in our car, we are driving over a shell under which, according to the Bible, there is supernaturalism, there are entities, there are creatures, there are beings.
If you were going to hide something and keep something secret, there's two places to do it. One is in the deep, deep oceans. The second place is a labyrinth, a network of tunnels and areas which go deep underneath the earth.
There was truth to this idea that this race called the Vril-Ya had been existing under the earth since the days of the Great Flood in the antediluvian world. In fact, the belief of the Vril-Ya and of the power of Vril was actually so prominent among German occultists that it gave birth to a secret society, one of the most notorious secret society involving the Nazi regime, called the Vril Society.
The Nazi expedition to Shambhala originally started in Greenland with the Edda. The Edda were ancient Nordic writings describing a hollow earth. They went there to see if they could find further details or information. This was the top of their agenda. They had to find this opening. And the next thing you know, they had the Neuschwabenland expedition to the Queen Maud Land area of the Antarctic. It's what drove them. It was a religious belief that drove them to cordon this area off and claim it for their own.
When I read Admiral Byrd's description of things that he saw and how it felt going into this abyss type of opening, but it also was a long time ago, and we've learned a lot about quantum physics since then. We've learned a lot about how these types of things would work, and there are too many descriptions in there of things that he saw that line up with current quantum physics understanding.
The underworld of our people, very similar to the Cherokee stories, the Creek stories, the Maya Incan stories of underwater panther and these underworlds where there was completely different civilizations that lived under there.
We know in the Bible that the Watchers, the angels who kept not their first estate, according to Peter, are kept in chains in Tartarus until the judgment, kept in darkness until the judgment. Tartarus, in Greek mythology, is as far below Hades. It's not Hades, it's as far below Hades as the earth is below heaven. That's where the Watchers, according to Peter, have been confined.
And what we're finding out is that the fallen angels and demonic entities have been molding the views. They've been molding the cultures, and hyper-intentionally, they've been molding the religions of the world. They've been literally priming the world for the greatest deception of all time. And we are fast approaching that time right now, according to the Bible.
The President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump.
The Arctic, right? Our country is blessed with incredible natural resources, including abundant offshore oil and natural gas in the Arctic. But we're opening it up.
As I didn't recognize the number, it says, I want to tell you that what you've been talking about, you need to stop talking about. Your experience that you had when you were on the ice, when you were in the service, we don't want you talking about that.
On a frozen, windswept expanse in the Arctic, Vladimir Putin's military ambition is on grand display. Painted like a Russian flag, it's called Trefoil for its three-cornered structure, a sprawling new military base that can house 150 troops and warplanes.
Понимаете, я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим. Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика не меняется. Знаете почему? Потому что очень сильна власть бюрократии.
The big news is Antarctica. And that does play into Trump at the moment. The plan that Donald Trump has is to...
Russia preparing to assault Anunnaki in Antarctica. A small stretch of Arctic water has become a hotbed for Russian military activity over the last several weeks.
Someone or something has summoned the world's political and religious leaders to Antarctica. The mystery surrounding one of the world's largest but least explored landmasses continue to be revealed.
John Kerry went there. Newt Gingrich, supposedly, I guess, is taking a visit. And other world leaders, they're all hopping on down to Antarctica right in the wake of Buzz Aldrin posting that picture of, like, the mountain that kind of looks like a pyramid.
I received an email from a retired 60-year-old U.S. Navy petty officer, first-class flight engineer. He and his C-130 crew encountered high strangeness in Antarctica from 1995 to 1996.
Antarctica Guardians ordered John Kerry to leave Antarctica and not to return, followed by our report about the strange blue lights in the sky in New Zealand and the blue greenish UFO-like object.
Specifically, we don't want you talking about the scientist that you picked up after being missing for a couple of weeks. And I said, how would you know about that? I've only talked to certain people. And the phone said, well, we know pretty much everything.
This is a lot about the projection of Russia's status, right? Russia's status is a great power, first and foremost. Second, the fact that Russia's an Arctic power.
Sweeping in on a massive military transport, the Russian president recently visited the base.
Вот человека избрали, он приходит с одними идеями, к нему приходят люди с кейсами, хорошо одетые и в темных, как у меня, костюмах, но только не с красным галстуком, а с черным или с темно-синим. И начинают объяснять, как нужно делать.
The plan that Donald Trump has is to reinvigorate the United States, to make it the #1 country again. But it would take between 7 years and 10 years, that's the estimate, to put America back in the driving position.
Residents near the Norwegian island of Vardo have reported seeing an unprecedented buildup of Russian military forces in the area, including ground, naval, and air units involved in strange and unusual military maneuvers.
Antarctica seems to be giving up its secrets. Numerous political and religious leaders, including former Secretary of State John Kerry, have been taking secret trips to the remote continent of Antarctica.
A large amount of the ice on the fringes of the continent is starting to slide off. The continent has begun to thaw. When that happens, you have no conception of how much mineral and energy wealth is in the continent of Antarctica.
They all saw rapidly moving silver discs over the trans-Antarctic mountains. Brian and his crew also saw a huge football field-sized hole in the ice, only about 5 to 10 miles from the geographic South Pole.
The primary reason of John Kerry's visit was to initiate contact with the Antarctic Guardians. It becomes clear that the strange blue light in the sky has been caused by these Antarctic beings.
And then they said, just don't be putting that out there anymore. Certain people would prefer that you not talk about that. And then I said, well, I'll consider that. And then the phone went dead. There was a click. Whoever on the other end hung up.
Putin made a show of traversing a glacier and hammering at the ice. Russian troops will be living under the harshest of conditions, 18-month deployments where the temperatures can dip well below zero.
Это происходит от одной администрации к другой. Вот что-то изменить — это достаточно сложное дело. Это, я говорю без всякой иронии. Это не потому, что кому-то не хочется, а потому, что это сложно. Вот Обама.
He doesn't have that length of time, and he has set a plan to do all of that in 18 months. And the only way he can do that in 18 months is to release alien technology. But they're not calling it alien technology.
Many military analysts believe the frozen tundra, located just 30 kilometers from Russia's Kola Peninsula, is a staging ground to thwart Western expansionism.
But as of yet, no one in any official capacity has explained why they're flooding to Antarctica all of a sudden. It would take an expert with a wide body of knowledge in fields including...
Where often we look at Antarctica, all we see is the surface, which is just ice. We say, well, there's nothing there. You know, you'd have to drill through 2 miles of ice to extract any resources. The little bit that's already thawed, they found a bit of coal.
There was supposed to be a no-fly zone. But during an emergency medevac crisis, to speed up their trip, they flew across that no-fly zone and saw apparently what they were not supposed to see. I was like, wow, this is out of the blue. What did you do next? Well, I was kind of curious, so I took the number off my cell phone and Googled it on the internet. It came back as the general phone number for the NSA.
It's known as exotic technology. That's what it's called in the intelligence services. And he wants to release some of this hidden technology to the corporations so that they can get going very quickly.
Our Moscow source, however, paints a much more sinister picture. Russian forces, he says, are training for a massive strike against an Anunnaki hive in Antarctica.
Religion, science, politics, and history to unravel the web that has been weaved by governments and secretive scientific organizations over the last 7 decades to understand what's really at play here.
The continent of Antarctica was once temperate in the past. It has just as much mineral wealth, certainly, and probably as much energy wealth as any other continent. But none of it has ever been tapped.
A huge hole in the ice that looked like it was an entrance to an underground installation. Later at camp near Marie Bergland, some dozen scientists disappeared for 2 weeks.